Hey everybody, welcome to a special inspiration. Today we're going to talk about something that's pretty unique and a little bit scary. It was Edgar Allan Poe who coined the idea that the scariest villains are the ones that you can't really see, and today's topic, grubs, are definitely that. Grubs essentially are beetles' younglings.
My younglings!
Or beetle larvae that are underneath the surface. And the problem is for lawn care is that they eat the roots of your grass plants. And so if everything's looking fine and you start noticing some brown patches, then it could be a number of things, but one of the things it could be are grubs. So in this video we'll talk all about like what grubs are, why it's a problem, but then importantly, how do you take care of that in lawn care? Or what can you do? All right, so as mentioned, if you have beetles, if you see them in your area at all, like here in the Pacific Northwest United States, we commonly have beetles, Japanese beetles and others. And if you see those around, at some point they were a little larva. They hatched from an egg, they eat a bunch of stuff, and then they change into the beetles that you know and probably don't really care for. The problem is that beetles generally lay their eggs in your soil and around in your landscape, and when they are little larvae, the little white bugs down in the ground, they will eat your grass roots and other things. And they're generally, you don't really see them unless you have a problem like that. So commonly what you might see are these brown patches of grass, usually about like that big or however widespread the problem is. And a way that you can tell is if you give a tug on the dead grass, and if it just pulls right out, as though there's almost no resistance, then you probably have a grub problem.
You want to get some grubs?
All right, so let's say you went out there in your yard and you found that there's some dead spots. You gave a tug, they came out easily, the grass came out easily, and if you dug down and you saw more than one or two, maybe like 3 or 4 or 5 actual grubs down there, then you have a grub problem today. Other times you might think, I'll probably have a grub problem in the future, like they're very common in my area. So either way, you need to take some action. It's, do you have a problem today or do you have a problem in the future? And if you have a problem today and you see a number of grubs, then you need to use a chemical to treat them, similar to trichlorfuron, which is the active ingredient in something like Bioadvanced Grub Killer Plus. And it's really in the name, killer. Grubs today, I need to kill them. That's what this one is. So trichlorfuron with something like Bioadvanced Grub Killer Plus. Okay, but on the other hand, if you look out there at your yard, you don't currently seem to have any grub problems today, but very commonly, year after year, or people around you seem to have grub problems, or if you look up online to read about common pests or like insect issues in your area and grubs come up, it's a good idea to think about doing preventative measures for those. And what's a really good practice is to look up when grubs tend to happen in your area. And so when you put preventative treatment down, you generally want to put it down about 6 to 8 weeks before that happens. And so this is a perfect time of year if you want to prevent grubs to apply some sort of a grub controller.
Take control!
Again, this is a preventative rather than a curative. So we go back to the question, do I have grub problems now or do I have grub problems in the future? So for the future ones, you want to put down a couple of different things. For example, you have Grub X from Scott's with the active ingredient of chloranatrinip.
Today, Junior!
Chloranatraniliprole, whatever. The other one is something like Bioadvanced Grub Control. And this one has the active ingredient of lambda cyhalothrin. I actually got that pretty easy, lambda cyhalothrin. Not too bad. Those are both preventative. With all of these, you'll put them down with a spreader. I'm using an Earthway broadcast spreader. And then after that, you want to water it in because then the active chemical can get into the soil And in most of these cases, the different active chemicals will take different actions on the grubs. It oftentimes will disrupt their nervous system so they can't eat and they just kind of die away. And another really good benefit to all this is if you're taking away grubs, think about it, you're going to be taking away the food supply for moles. And so moles are opportunistic animals, and so they'll just go wherever the food is. And so if you take care of your grubs, they'll probably move on to your neighbors. You know, sorry, John, you're going to be getting some moles because I'm getting rid of the grubs in my yard. And so the moles will go elsewhere. So it's a really good side benefit. If you take care of your grubs, then you'll probably also have fewer mole issues as well. Now, with any insecticide, you really want to be thoughtful about how this is going to interact with some of the more beneficial insects around you. In our case, you know, obviously we want to protect bees.
Bees?
Beads.
Beads?
You know, because they're going to be pollinating the plants and helping us live as humans, so be careful with them. So some good best practices for this is if your yard has flowering weeds, to make sure you cut all those flowers off so that where you're applying the grub control are not going to be where bees are and where bees are going after flowers and stuff like that, because this will kill bees. So again, just like keep this in the non-flowering parts of your yard and out of your flower beds and things like that. It's also a good idea to avoid doing this more in like the springtime when bees are super active, you know, so if you do it again, like about this time of year, which right now is about mid-June in preparation for a prevention for later summer, the bees aren't really where I am as much, so it's less of a risk. So just be careful about that. All right, and before I get going, just a really quick tip before I put down, this is the Bio Advanced product. I'm using the Earthway 2600. It's a really great spreader that a lot of folks here in the lawn care community use. I'll link to a really good set of instructions for how to assemble this, though it's the one drawback is it's a huge pain in the butt to put together. But just a quick rule of thumb, not all packages will tell you exactly how much product or what the distribution rate should be. So like they'll often say the Scott's amount, which for this product, it's a 2.5 on a Scott spreader. Earthway, you just add 10 to that, so it's about 12.5 on the Earthway spreader. So if Scott's says 2.5, Earthway put down 12.5. All right, so hopefully that helps.